knapsack just went in the garbage. That's not a good sign. When things aren't going well at school, it can make for tears and tantrums. If this is an issue in your home, you might appreciate hearing from some parents in the know. Joining us in our parenting panel this morning is Mama of 4 and author of I Am So the Boss of You, love that title, Kathy Buckworth, father of 2 and secondary supervisor with the Toronto Catholic School Board, Scott Waith, and Mama of 4 and founder of the Multiple Mayhem Mamma newsletter, Samantha Kemp-Jackson. Great to have you here. And this is important right now. A lot of parents going through this. You're one of them, Sam. Tell us about that.
Well, I've got identical twin boys who are 6 years old, and I've got a 12-year-old. And all of them have dealt with not going to school, and I've had to deal with them. And I usually try to find out what the reason is. So oftentimes it could be they don't just want to do the homework.
You got to get to the root of the problem.
You got to get to the root of the problem, yes, absolutely. And it could be anything. It could be not liking a friend, or it could be the homework, or it could be just they just want to be lazy and stay at home with mom.
And Kathy's in full agreement over there going, yeah.
I am in full agreement. But besides finding the root of it, it's also not, for parents to not reinforce negativity about school. I hear a lot of, parents say in front of their, kids, oh, my son's got a really bad teacher this year. Please don't do that. Please don't reinforce maybe the root reason they don't want to go to school in front of them. Help them to find the positive, because all you're doing is sort of validating a reason why they shouldn't go to school and giving them things like, let's take a personal day. Don't say that to them, let's take a personal day because I know you don't like school. Still, maybe you want to take one every now and then, I don't know, but not reinforcing that you're giving them this huge break from this awful place.
You don't want to validate
right?
it. And Scott, you're part of the school system. You deal with truant kids, but at the high school level.
Yes. And just to add to what the ladies have been saying, you got to find a way to communicate with the kid, with the school, whether it be teachers or the administrators, just to get to the root of the problem and be able to find solutions and strategies in order to get them back in the class.
Let's talk more about those strategies, because finding and keeping those lines of communication open can be difficult sometimes. So what do you suggest strategy-wise?
Strategy-wise, finding a friend. Making sure that the friend that likes to go to school, well, why do they like going to school? Being able to, like I know at the high school level, some of them, might be heartbroken, and they don't want to go to school because of a girlfriend, and now.
And these are the issues, right?
Yes, yeah, and just finding a way to, and coping mechanisms in order to get them back in a class.
I also think that opening those lines of communications with the teachers or with parents of the other children that they're associating with really makes a difference. So maybe there's something going on at school that you don't know about. So
a bully situation,
or maybe your child is uncomfortable with some of the information that they're learning at school, or they're having a hard time. So really getting to the root of the problem, talking to their teacher, talking to other parents, and talking to some of the kids.
I would also suggest on the preventative side, I know a lot of schools take great care in placing kids in certain classrooms, and then when September rolls around, the parents say, oh, I heard they're a terrible teacher, I'm going to get my child moved, please again. Don't do that, particularly in front of the child. And just because you've heard from friends that maybe it's not a great teacher, or maybe the school has a bad reputation, please put your child in the environment for themselves and let them see. Giving them that type of background is a really bad filter for them to start the school year with. And if you end up moving your child out of a class or out of the school because you're unhappy, don't tell your child all the details so that they share it with their friends who are still at that school, so they feel bad about still going to that school. So we really have to arm our kids with positive information, not focus on the negative.
How much of this has to do with transition and transitional ages? I know for our son, he was going from daycare to full-time kindergarten, and so there was an issue because there was a lot of change involved, or going from middle school to high school. How much of this is happening because it's just about change?
I think a lot of it has to do with change, and I think to that point, as parents, we need to give them the tools to cope with it. So that might mean taking them to the classroom first, taking them to the school before the school starts. If it's summer holidays, getting them acclimatized. If it's a kindergarten situation where a child's never been in school before, or they're going from daycare to school, you really have to get them prepared that way.
I think also just, tell them to expect that it's going to be a little bit of an extra challenge for them. Like, don't ignore it. Don't say, oh, you're fine all the time. Say, what did you find challenging about the change? Could you find your way around the school, etc. So, don't sort of brush over it either. Find out what they're finding hard about that transition.
And that's a good point, Scott, because you talk to kids. You keep those lines of communication open so they trust you and they'll tell you things.
Yes. So it's very important in terms of the transition from grade 8 to grade 9. Most high schools have a transition program, and that's very important to get those kids involved and get those kids to introduce them to the teachers and the staff, and just get acclimatized with the school and know where certain classes are. It's very important for them.
He raises a good point. My daughter, who was very worried about entering grade 9, is now in grade 11 and leads one of those. She's on something called Link Crew at the school, where she helps kids new to the school or new to the country assimilate into the school. So there's a lot of support at schools from you mentioned peers before. Getting their peers involved and that sort of thing is really helpful.
Making it more
older.
comfortable.
Absolutely, and finding a buddy. You know, if there's one particular friend or two particular friends that your child is comfortable with, then really leverage those relationships so that they feel good about going to school.
Sam, Scott, Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take good care.